Welcome, friend. Tonight, we walk a quiet path together through the gentle darkness. Let your eyes close softly now. Let your body settle into the comfort beneath you. The day has been long, perhaps. The world has asked much of you, as it always does. But here, in this moment, nothing is required. Nothing is expected. Nothing is needed. You have arrived at the shore of stillness, where the waters are calm and deep. Somewhere in the distance, a candle flickers in a window you cannot see but somehow know. Its light is small but steady. It has been burning since before you were born. That light is patience itself. It asks nothing. It simply glows and waits. And tonight, you are like that candle. You need only be present, nothing more. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. This is the oldest rhythm of life. You did not have to learn it. You did not have to earn it. It was given freely. So let it be your anchor now. Let it be the thread that leads you inward. With each inhale, imagine a soft warmth gathering in your chest, glowing gently like an ember. With each exhale, feel the tension dissolve like mist rising from a quiet lake at dawn. There is nothing to fix tonight. There is nothing to solve or understand or change. The peace you seek is not somewhere else. It is not waiting in the future. It is already here, beneath the noise, beneath the worry, beneath the endless thinking. Peace is what remains when you stop struggling. It is your true nature waiting to be remembered. So let yourself remember now. Let yourself return to what has always been true. The rain begins to fall somewhere far away, a gentle whisper against temple stones. You can almost hear it, that soft hush of water meeting earth in the darkness. It is the sound of letting go. It is the music of surrender and release. And as the rain falls, imagine it washing away everything you no longer need to carry. The worries of today, the regrets of yesterday, the fears of tomorrow, all dissolving into stillness. You are held by the night. You are cradled by the silence between the raindrops. There is an ancient temple in the mountains of Japan where monks have practiced for centuries. It sits among cedar trees so old they have forgotten the names given to them by men. The temple itself is simple. Wooden floors worn smooth by countless footsteps through the years. Paper screens that let the moonlight enter like a blessing, pale and pure and soft. In this temple there lived once a calligrapher who was known throughout the land for his art. His brushwork was legendary. Each stroke seemed to hold the essence of wind and water and stone. People travelled great distances just to watch him work, to witness his gift made visible. But what few knew was that this master had been blind since childhood, since before memory began. He had never seen the characters he painted with such grace and precision and beauty. He had never seen the ink spread across the paper, like black rivers finding their paths. He worked entirely by feel, entirely by presence, entirely by trust in the unknown. One day, a young student arrived at the temple, eager to learn the master's secrets. He watched the blind calligrapher work in silence, his brush dancing across the paper effortlessly. When the work was finished, the student could not contain his curiosity any longer. "Master," he said, "how can you create such beauty when you cannot see what you create?" The old man smiled gently and set down his brush on the worn wooden table. "The eyes see only the surface of things," he said. "The surface is not where beauty lives. When I paint, I do not try to make something beautiful. I simply allow what is already there. The character exists before I paint it. My brush only uncovers what has always been waiting. The student was puzzled by this answer. He had studied calligraphy for many years and struggled. He struggled to make his characters look right, to match the examples in the ancient books. But Master, he said, how do you know if you have done it well or poorly? The blind calligrapher lifted his brush again and held it motionless above the fresh paper. Feel the silence before the stroke, he said. That silence holds everything you need to know. If the heart is quiet, the hand will follow. If the heart is troubled, no technique helps. The student watched as the old man breathed slowly, his whole body becoming still and soft. Then the brush descended, moving without hesitation, without correction, without any visible thought at all. The character that emerged was not perfect by any standard the student knew from his training. One line was thicker than convention allowed, another curved where tradition said it should stay straight. Yet somehow the whole was more alive than anything the student had ever seen before. It seemed to breathe on the page, as if it might rise up and walk away. The master set down his brush and folded his hands gently in his lap. You see imperfection, he said softly. You see departure from the rules you have been taught. But what you call imperfection, I call truth. What you call departure, I call presence. The rules were made by men who studied other men, who studied still more men before them. Each generation added more rules, trying to capture what cannot be captured with rules at all. What makes calligraphy alive is not perfection. It is the spirit of the one who paints, and spirit cannot be taught. It can only be uncovered, like a stone in a riverbed. The student sat with these words through the night, watching the candles burn slowly down. By morning, something had shifted within him. He did not yet understand, but he felt it. He picked up his own brush, but instead of trying to make the perfect character, he paused. He listened to the silence the master had spoken of. He felt the weight of the brush, and when he finally moved, he moved without knowing where the stroke would lead him next. The character he created was clumsy by his old standards. The lines wobbled and wandered, but for the first time, he did not feel the familiar frustration rising in his chest. He felt instead a strange and quiet joy, like hearing a bird sing at first light. This, said the master, who had been listening from across the room, this is the beginning, not the end, not mastery, not even skill, just the beginning of truly learning to see. The student bowed low, understanding at last that he had been blind in his own way. He had been blind to the life that moves beneath all forms, beneath all perfection, beneath all. True peace is not found in control, but in surrender to what already is and was. Let that teaching settle into your body now, like rain soaking gently into dry earth. You do not need to understand it fully. Understanding will come in its own time, its own way. For now, simply let the words rest beside you like a companion in the darkness. The breath continues. The night continues. The stillness continues without any effort from you at all. Somewhere, a temple bell rings once, far away, its sound dissolving into the mountain silence. That bell has been ringing for 1,000 years. It will ring for 1,000 more. And in its sound, there is no beginning and no end, only the eternal present moment. You are part of that moment now. You have always been part of it, even when forgetting. The forgetting is natural. The remembering is also natural. Both are part of the same river. So do not judge yourself for the times you have struggled or strayed or lost your way. Every wandering leads eventually back to the source. Every detour is part of the journey home. Let your body soften a little more now. Let the bed receive your weight completely. There is nothing you need to hold. There is nothing you need to resist or push away. The thoughts that arise are like leaves floating down a stream in autumn's quiet golden light. You do not need to catch them. You do not need to examine them or organize them. Simply let them pass. Simply notice and release. This is the art of gentle awareness. Where in your life do you hold on too tightly? Where do you grip when you could rest? These questions are not for answering tonight. They are only for feeling, for sensing, for noticing. Perhaps there is a place in your shoulders where tension has made its home for years. Perhaps there is a thought that returns again and again, wearing a groove in your mind. Whatever you notice, let it be held with kindness. Let it be seen without judgment or force. You are learning to be gentle with yourself. This is perhaps the hardest and most important lesson. We are taught to push, to strive, to overcome, to conquer, to master, to achieve. But the deepest truths cannot be conquered. They can only be welcomed, received, and accepted wholly. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop struggling against what is. Let that truth wash over you now like warm water, soothing every tired muscle and thought. In another part of the world, in another time that is also somehow this very moment, there lived a monk who cared for a small temple garden at the edge of a quiet village. The garden was famous for its simplicity, just moss, stones, and a single ancient pine tree. Visitors came from distant cities to sit beside this garden and let their minds grow still. But the monk who tended it never thought of fame or reputation or what others might think. He simply raked the moss each morning, removed the fallen leaves, and sat in silent gratitude. One autumn, a wealthy merchant arrived at the temple, his fine robes dusty from the long road. He had heard of this garden and its power to bring peace to troubled minds and hearts. His own mind had been troubled for many years. His success had brought him no real happiness. He sat beside the garden as the morning light filtered through the pine needles above him. The monk brought him tea and then returned to his raking, saying nothing at all. Hours passed. The merchant watched the patterns in the moss, the shadows shifting slowly across stone. He waited for peace to arrive, but it did not come as he had expected it. Instead, his mind grew louder. His thoughts became more insistent, more demanding, more uncomfortable. By afternoon, he was frustrated. He called to the monk, his voice sharp with disappointment. "I was told this garden would bring me peace," he said, "but I feel only agitation." The monk set down his rake and walked slowly to where the merchant sat, still fidgeting. He lowered himself onto the wooden platform beside the wealthy man and looked at the garden. "Tell me," he said quietly, "what do you see when you look at these stones?" The merchant looked. "I see stones," he said, "arranged in a pattern, surrounded by moss." "And what do you think about when you see them?" the monk asked gently, without judgment. The merchant considered. "I think about whether the pattern means something, whether I'm understanding it correctly. I think about whether I am doing this right, whether peace will come if I try harder." The monk nodded slowly. "And there," he said, "is why peace has not visited you today. You are looking at the garden the way you look at your business, as something to master. You are waiting for peace, as if it were a merchant coming to sell you something you need. But peace is not for sale. It cannot be earned or achieved or figured out by thinking. Peace is what remains when you stop waiting for peace, when you stop trying to have it. The merchant was silent for a long moment, turning these words over in his mind. "But how do I stop trying?" he asked finally. "Trying is all I know how to do." The monk smiled gently and gestured toward the garden stretching quietly before them both. "Look at the pine tree," he said. "Does it try to be tall? Does it struggle to grow? It simply grows. It simply is. What it is, moment by moment, year after year, without effort. The moss does not try to be green. The stones do not try to be still. Everything in this garden is at peace because nothing in this garden is trying to be anything." The merchant looked at the garden again, and this time something small shifted inside him. He saw the same stones, the same moss, the same ancient pine reaching toward the sky, but now he saw them without asking what they meant or what he should do about them. He simply saw them, and in that simple seeing, for one breath, his mind went quiet. It was not a great revelation. It was not the spiritual transformation he had imagined it would be. It was just one moment of stillness, brief as a firefly's light in the summer darkness. But it was enough. It was the first taste of something he had been searching for always. The monk rose and returned to his raking, leaving the merchant to sit with his discovery. By evening, the merchant had not moved. The light had changed from gold to amber to grey. He watched the garden receive the darkness as naturally as it had received the morning light, and he understood finally that peace was not something to be found in special places or states. It was available always, in every moment, beneath the endless noise of wanting and fearing. He rose slowly, his legs stiff from sitting, and bowed deeply to the monk still raking. "Thank you," he said. "I came seeking peace and found something I did not expect to find." The monk paused and looked at him with eyes full of kindness and quiet understanding. "You found what was already yours," he said. "You only needed to stop searching long enough to see." The merchant left the next morning, returning to his business and his life in the city. But something had changed. He no longer raked his own mind, trying to arrange thoughts perfectly. He learned to let the leaves fall where they would, and to trust the moss to grow. And in this way, over many years, he became as peaceful as the garden he had visited. Not because he had conquered his restless mind, but because he had stopped fighting it at last. Let that image hold you now. The garden at dusk, the stones receiving the coming darkness. Let yourself be like those stones, unmoved by what comes, unchanged by what passes through. The breath moves in, the breath moves out. This is enough. This has always been enough. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop struggling against life. The night deepens around you now, soft and vast and infinitely patient in its embrace. There is no hurry here. There is nowhere you need to be except exactly where you are. The rain has stopped perhaps, or perhaps it continues, a gentle rhythm in the background of stillness. Either way, the earth is being nourished. Either way, life continues its ancient, unceasing work. And you are part of that work, even in your rest, even in your letting go. The body heals while you sleep. The mind sorts and releases and makes space for tomorrow. This is the wisdom of the night, that rest is not passive, but profoundly, quietly creative. So let yourself sink a little deeper now, a little further into the arms of stillness. There is a story told in monasteries across Asia, passed down through generations of quiet seekers. It speaks of a library that once held all the wisdom of the ancient masters in scrolls. Thousands upon thousands of scrolls, each one containing teachings on meditation, compassion, and awakening. The library was housed in a great temple complex high in the mountains, far from cities. Scholars travelled for months just to study there, to copy the sacred texts by candlelight. It was considered the greatest treasure of the Buddhist world, irreplaceable and beyond all price. One winter night, a fire broke out in the wing where the oldest scrolls were kept. The flames spread quickly, fed by the dry paper and wooden shelves that held everything. Monks ran through the corridors, trying to save what they could from the growing inferno. But the fire was too fast, too hungry. Within hours, half the library was destroyed entirely. The head monk stood in the courtyard, watching the smoke rise into the cold night sky. Around him, younger monks wept openly, their hearts broken by the loss of such treasures. So much wisdom, gone forever. So many teachings, turned to ash and carried away by wind. But the old monk's face was calm, even as he watched the flames consume everything. A young student approached him, tears streaming down his face, barely able to speak at all. "Master," he cried, "how can you stand there so peacefully? Everything we have worked to preserve is lost." The old monk placed a gentle hand on the young man's shoulder and smiled softly. "What has been lost tonight?" he asked quietly. "Only paper and ink, only forms and shapes. The wisdom those scrolls contained was never in the scrolls themselves, waiting to be found. It was in the hearts of those who read them, who practiced them, who lived their truths. A teaching that lives only on paper is already dead. A teaching that lives in you cannot burn." The young monk looked at the flames, then back at his teacher, trying to understand. "But Master," he said, "what about all those who will never read these texts now? What about the future generations who will not have access to this accumulated wisdom?" The old monk nodded, acknowledging the weight of this concern with patience and compassion. "Each generation," he said, "must find the truth for itself. No scroll can do that work. The Buddha himself left no written teachings. His wisdom lived in those who walked with him, and when they died, it lived on in those who walked with them, and so on. The fire tonight is a teaching in itself. It shows us where we have placed our faith. If our peace depends on scrolls remaining unburned, our peace is as fragile as paper. But if our peace comes from the practice itself, from the stillness we cultivate within, nothing can destroy it." The young monk stood in silence, watching the flames slowly die as dawn approached the mountains. And in the ashes of that night, something new began to grow in his understanding. He realized he had been clinging to the words more than the meaning behind the words. He had been worshipping the finger pointing at the moon, forgetting to look at the moon itself. In the weeks that followed, the monks did not rebuild the library as it had been. Instead, they created a smaller collection, simpler and more focused on essential teachings alone. And they established a new practice. Each monk was required to memorize and embody one teaching fully. Not just to know it intellectually, but to live it so completely it became part of them. In this way, the library was no longer a building, but a living community of practitioners. The fire had taken much, but it had also given something that could not have come otherwise. It had burned away the attachment to form and revealed the essence that form was meant to serve. Let this teaching rest gently in your awareness now, like embers glowing softly in the darkness. What are you clinging to that you fear might be taken? What forms have you confused with truth? These questions are not meant to disturb your rest. They are meant to loosen what binds you. For in the loosening, there is freedom. In the releasing, there is peace beyond all understanding. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. The body knows what the mind keeps forgetting. Rest is not something you have to earn. Peace is not something you have to deserve. They are your birthright, given freely to every being that breathes in this vast universe. So let yourself receive them now. Let yourself be held by the night without condition or demand. If these teachings bring you comfort, if this voice is a companion on your path to rest, you are welcome to return whenever you wish. To subscribe is simply to say yes to this stillness again and again. Now let us walk a little further together, a little deeper into the quiet of the night. The candle has burned lower, its flame smaller now, but no less steady, no less warm. In its light, shadows dance on walls you cannot see but somehow feel surrounding you softly. This is the hour when the world grows quiet, when even the wind holds its breath. The hour when dreams begin to gather at the edges of waking, patient and gentle. Let them come when they are ready. Let them take you where they will without resistance. There is a small village in the mountains of Tibet where an old woman once lived alone. Her home was simple: one room, a sleeping mat, a stove for tea, a window facing east. She had lived in this village her entire life, never travelling more than a day's walk away. Yet people came from distant lands to seek her counsel, having heard of her wisdom. She was not a teacher in any formal sense. She had no title, no lineage, no students. She was simply someone who had lived long enough and quietly enough to see clearly at last. One day, a man arrived at her door, weary from weeks of travel across harsh terrain. He was a scholar who had studied Buddhism in universities and monasteries around the entire world. He had read every text, debated every philosophy, analysed every teaching until his mind ached with it. But despite all his knowledge, he could not find the peace the teachings promised was possible. He had heard of this old woman from a wandering monk he met on the road. She knows something the books cannot teach, the monk had said. Go and see for yourself. So the scholar had come, sceptical but desperate, hoping for something his learning had not provided. The old woman welcomed him with tea and silence, asking nothing about why he had come. She simply poured the tea and sat with him, watching the steam rise and disappear. The scholar waited for her to speak, to offer some teaching or insight or instruction at all, but she said nothing. She simply sat, her weathered hands wrapped around her cup of tea. After an hour, the scholar could no longer bear the silence and spoke his question aloud. I have studied the Dharma for 30 years, he said. Why do I still suffer so much inside? The old woman looked at him with eyes that seemed to hold the depth of mountain lakes. Have you been studying the Dharma? She asked softly, or studying your ideas about the Dharma? The scholar was taken aback. He did not understand the distinction she was trying to make. He had read the original texts in their original languages. He knew the commentaries by heart. What could be more authentic than that? What could be closer to the true Dharma itself? The old woman set down her tea and gestured toward the small window facing the morning light. "When you look at the sunrise," she said, "do you see the sun, or do you see?" The scholar furrowed his brow. "I see the sun, of course," he replied with some impatience. "No," she said gently, "you see light touching your eyes. You see colours in your mind. You have never seen the sun itself. You have only seen what your seer makes of it. The Dharma is the same. The texts are only what your mind makes of the truth, but the truth itself is not in the texts. It is not in any words at all. It is in the space between the words. It is in the silence that holds all sound." The scholar sat with this, feeling something stir beneath his layers of accumulated knowledge. For 30 years he had been building a fortress of ideas, believing it would protect him. But the fortress had become a prison. The ideas had become walls between him and reality. "Then how do I find the truth?" he asked, his voice smaller now, more humble than before. The old woman smiled and refilled his tea with the same unhurried grace as before. "You do not find it," she said. "You stop looking, you stop building, you stop knowing, and in that stopping, what has always been true becomes visible, like stars when day becomes night." The scholar stayed in the village for 1 month, sitting with the old woman each morning. She never gave him another teaching. She simply sat with him, sharing tea and silence together. But in that silence, something the books could not convey began to communicate itself to him. He learned that wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom is the space in which knowledge can rest. He learned that peace is not understanding. Peace is what remains when understanding lets go. When he left the village, he carried no new ideas back to his university and students, but he carried something more valuable, a quietness in his chest where questions used to burn. He still taught, still studied, still engaged with the texts he had spent his life learning, but now he held them lightly, like a bird holds a branch before flying into the open sky. And his students noticed the change. They said his teachings had become simpler, warmer, more alive. He no longer argued for positions or defended interpretations. He simply pointed toward the silence between words, and in that pointing, some of them glimpsed what the old woman had shown him long ago. Let that story settle into your bones now, into the places where you hold your own knowing. What would it mean to stop knowing, just for tonight, just for these few quiet hours? What would it mean to let the mind rest from its endless building and defending and seeking? You do not have to answer. The question itself is a kind of loosening, a kind of release. Simply feel what arises when you consider it. Simply notice without needing to do anything at all. The breath moves in, the breath moves out. The knowing comes and goes like clouds, but the sky remains. The awareness in which all knowing appears and disappears remains unchanged. You are that sky. You have always been that sky, even when believing you were only clouds. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop struggling to be anything at all. The night has grown deeper now, the darkness more complete, more enveloping, more like home. There is a quality to deep night that words can only gesture toward, but never capture. It is the quality of return, of coming back to something ancient and primordial and essential. Before there was light, there was darkness. Before there were stars, there was the void's embrace. And in that original darkness, everything that would ever exist was already present, waiting to unfold. You come from that darkness. You return to it each night when consciousness releases its grip. This is not something to fear. This is something to trust, to welcome, to surrender into. The darkness is not empty. It is full of potential, full of rest, full of regeneration. Like soil in winter, it holds the seeds of everything that will bloom when spring arrives. So let yourself be held by this darkness now. Let yourself be one of those seeds resting. You do not need to grow tonight. You do not need to bloom or produce or become. You only need to rest in the rich darkness, gathering strength for whatever tomorrow may bring. In the Zen tradition, there is a practice called Shikantasa, which means just sitting, nothing more. It is considered the highest form of meditation, yet it involves no technique, no method at all. You simply sit, you simply breathe, you simply are, without trying to achieve any particular state. This sounds easy, but for most people it is the hardest thing in the entire world. We are so accustomed to doing, to striving, to improving, to getting somewhere other than here. To simply be, without any agenda at all, feels almost impossible at first, and then terrifying. But in that terror is liberation. In that impossibility is the doorway to everything we seek, because what we truly seek cannot be achieved. It can only be recognized as already present here. The peace we long for is not something we will find someday when conditions are finally right. It is here now, underneath the longing itself, underneath the seeking, underneath the endless becoming. To practice just being is to stop running toward a future that never actually arrives anyway. It is to stop fleeing from a past that no longer exists anywhere except in our thoughts. It is to arrive, finally and completely, in the only moment that is ever actually real. This moment, this breath, this soft darkness, this body resting, this awareness, knowing itself as awareness. Let that be enough tonight. Let this be the practice. Just resting, just breathing, just being. There is a temple in Kyoto where monks have been practicing walking meditation for 800 years. The stones of the walkway are worn smooth by countless footsteps, generation after generation of seekers. Each morning before dawn, the monks walk this path in silence, one slow step at a time. They do not walk to get somewhere. They walk to fully inhabit the act of walking itself. Each step is complete. Each step is the destination. Each step is the entire journey in miniature. There is a story about a young monk who joined this temple, eager to attain enlightenment quickly. He walked the path with fierce determination, willing himself toward awakening with every single step he took. But the harder he tried, the more frustrated he became. Enlightenment seemed to recede before him. One morning, an older monk noticed the young man's tense shoulders and clenched jaw as he walked. He approached gently and walked beside him for a time without speaking, matching his hurried pace. Then he stopped, and the young monk stopped too, confused and slightly annoyed by the interruption. The older monk pointed down at the stones beneath their feet, worn smooth by centuries of practice. "These stones," he said, "have been walked by masters who are now only memory and dust. Each one of them walked this same path, seeking what you are seeking with such urgency, and each one of them, at some point, stopped seeking and simply walked, and that was enough. The enlightenment you are chasing is not ahead of you. It is not in the next step. It is in this step, fully taken. It is in the feel of stone beneath your foot. It is in the cool morning air entering your lungs. It is in the sound of your robe rustling. The young monk looked down at his feet, really seeing them for the first time in weeks. He saw how his toes gripped the stone, how his weight shifted with each movement forward. He felt the morning cold on his face, a slight ache in his knees from sitting long hours, and in that moment of simple noticing, something relaxed that had been clenched for so long. He did not become enlightened in the way he had imagined, with lights and revelations and certainty. He simply became present. He simply arrived where he had always been, but had never truly noticed. The older monk smiled and continued walking, leaving the young man standing alone on the ancient stones. And the young monk stood there for a long time, just feeling his feet on the ground. When he finally began walking again, it was different. Each step was no longer a means. Each step was complete in itself. Each step was arriving and departing at the same moment. He walked the path for 40 more years, and in all that time he never sought enlightenment again. He simply walked, and in the simplicity of that walking, everything he had sought was always present. Let that story walk itself through your awareness now, slowly, one image at a time. Feel the stones beneath your feet, even as you lie in the softness of your bed. Feel the ancient patience of all those who have walked before you, seeking peace and finding it. You are part of that lineage now, part of that river of seekers becoming finders, becoming nothing at all. The breath moves in, the breath moves out. Each breath is a step on the path. Each breath is complete. Each breath is arriving and departing at the very same moment of time. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to achieve. There is only this endless arriving. In the philosophy of Buddhism, there is a concept called sunyata, often translated as emptiness or voidness. But this translation can be misleading. It does not mean that nothing exists or that everything is nihilistic. It means rather that everything that exists is empty of separate, independent, permanent self-nature and identity. Everything is connected to everything else. Everything depends on everything else for its very existence. The flower is not separate from the sun that grew it, or the rain that nourished its roots. The flower is not separate from the earth it springs from, or the air it breathes into. In a very real sense, the flower is the sun, and the rain, and the earth and air. And so are you. You are not separate from the world you perceive around you each day. You are not an isolated self looking out at an external universe that is not you. You are the universe, looking at itself, experiencing itself, knowing itself through this particular form and moment. When you breathe in air that has been breathed by every being that ever lived. When you breathe out, you contribute to the air that will be breathed by beings yet unborn. There is no separation. There has never been separation. The boundary of your skin is an appearance only. Let this understanding soften the edges of self that can feel so hard and defended and alone. You are not alone. You cannot be alone. Alone is not possible in this interconnected universe. Even in the deepest solitude, you are held by the earth beneath you and the stars above. Even in the darkest night, you are connected to every being who has ever rested in darkness. This is not a belief to be accepted or rejected. It is a reality to be felt directly. Feel it now, if you can. Feel the softening of boundaries, the melting of rigid separateness. Feel yourself as part of something vast and ancient and alive, breathing as one breath, being as one being. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when the illusion of separation dissolves. The moon has risen, perhaps, or perhaps it is hidden behind clouds that drift without hurry. Either way, its light is there, reflecting the sun that shines on the other side of Earth. Even in darkness, light exists. Even in night, day is present, simply turned away for a while. This is the nature of all opposites. They contain each other. They depend on each other completely. There cannot be darkness without light. There cannot be stillness without movement. There cannot be rest without activity. And so your rest tonight is not separate from your activity. It is its completion, its other half. Tomorrow will come with its demands and challenges, but tonight holds tomorrow, makes tomorrow possible through rest. So rest completely, rest without reservation, rest as if the world depends on it, because in some way it does. There is a teaching in Zen called beginner's mind, which speaks to approaching each moment as if for the first time. The expert's mind is full of knowledge, full of categories, full of having seen this all before. But the beginner's mind is empty, open, curious, ready to be surprised by what it encounters. A master calligrapher was once asked which of his works was his greatest achievement throughout his career. He smiled and picked up his brush, dipping it in fresh ink with the same care as always. "This one," he said, beginning a new character, "the one I have not yet completed is the greatest, because in this moment I am a beginner again. I do not know what will happen next, and in that not knowing, everything is possible. In that emptiness, every form waits to be born." The students watched as the master made a single stroke, simple and unremarkable to their eyes, but he set down the brush and looked at the character with evident satisfaction and quiet joy. "There," he said, "I have never made this stroke before. I will never make it again. It is unique in all the universe, this one stroke, this one moment of ink meeting paper. How can anything be greater than that? How can anything be more miraculous than what is right here?" Let that question rest in you now. How can anything be greater than what is right here? This breath, this moment, this body resting in darkness, this awareness, simply being aware of itself. What could you add to this moment to make it more complete? What could you take away? It is already perfect in its imperfection. It is already whole in its passing and impermanence, and you are part of that perfection and that wholeness, even with all your struggles and fears, especially with all your struggles and fears, because they too are part of what is here right now. The moon rises, the moon sets, the breath moves in, the breath moves out, and in between these movements, in the tiny gap between in and out, there is stillness. That stillness is your true home. That stillness is who you have always been, beneath all the rest. In the monasteries of ancient China, there was a practice called huatu, or questioning meditation with koans. Monks would be given impossible questions to sit with, questions that the rational mind cannot solve at all. What is the sound of one hand clapping? What was your face before your parents were born? These questions were not meant to be answered intellectually. They were meant to break the mind open. Like a nut being cracked, the shell of conceptual thinking had to shatter for the truth to emerge. One monk sat with his question for 7 years, turning it over and over without resolution. His question was simple: what is this? What is this awareness that knows it is aware? He asked it while eating. He asked it while sleeping. He asked it while walking and sitting. What is this? What is this? What is this? The question became his constant companion and friend. And then one morning, while watching a leaf fall from a tree, something shifted completely in him. He did not find an answer. The question itself dissolved, taking with it the one who was asking. There was no more "what is this?" because there was no longer a separate self to ask. There was only this itself, knowing itself, being itself, complete and whole and utterly beyond words. The monk laughed and laughed, tears streaming down his face in the morning sunlight that day. He had spent 7 years searching for something that had never been lost or hidden at all. It had been here the whole time, closer than his own breath, more intimate than his own thoughts. "What is this?" he had asked, and the answer, finally, was nothing other than the asking itself. Let that teaching fall like a leaf into the pool of your awareness, rippling outward without end. You do not need to understand it. You do not need to solve it or figure it out. You only need to let it be here with you in the darkness, a companion for your rest. What is this? What is this moment? What is this breath? What is this awareness reading these words? The question is not meant to disturb your peace. The question is a doorway into deeper peace, because in the asking there is presence. In the not knowing there is openness and spaciousness. The mind that thinks it knows is closed. The mind that admits it does not know is open. And openness is where peace lives. Openness is where rest becomes possible and effortless and complete. So let yourself not know tonight. Let yourself be a beginner in the art of resting. Let yourself be surprised by how much peace is possible when you stop trying to be peaceful. The thoughts that rise are not you. They are clouds crossing the sky of awareness that you are. You do not need to chase them, or fight them, or understand them, or organize them into order. Simply let them pass. Simply notice and release. Simply be the sky that holds all weather. This is not something you have to practice or achieve. It is simply what is always already true. Awareness is not something you do. It is what you are. It is the most fundamental thing. Before you are a person with a name and a history, you are awareness, knowing that you are. Before you are a body with sensations and feelings, you are awareness, knowing those sensations and feelings. Before you are a mind with thoughts and memories, you are awareness, knowing those thoughts and memories, and that awareness is not troubled by anything that appears within it, just as the sky is not harmed by any cloud. Storms can rage across the sky, and the sky remains unchanged, unmarked, untroubled, infinitely spacious. Let yourself be that sky now. Let the clouds of thought drift through without attachment or resistance. Some clouds are dark, some clouds are light, some bring rain, and some bring only shade. But the sky does not prefer one cloud over another. The sky simply holds them all equally, and so can you hold all your thoughts and feelings equally, without preferring some over others. The pleasant thoughts, the difficult thoughts, the boring thoughts, the anxious thoughts, all equally clouds, all equally passing, all equally not you, all equally held in the vast sky of your being. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop identifying with clouds. The candle has burned lower still. Its flame is small now, but still steady and warm and bright. Soon it will flicker and go out, as all flames do when their fuel has been consumed. But the darkness that follows will not be empty. It will be full of rest and regeneration. And somewhere, another candle will be lit by someone else who who needs its light to find their way. This is the nature of things, arising, persisting for a time, passing away, arising again elsewhere in new form. Nothing is lost, everything is transformed. The flame becomes heat, the heat becomes memory, the memory becomes teaching, and the teaching becomes a flame in another heart, lighting the way for another traveller through the dark. You are part of this endless circulation of light and darkness, of arising and passing, of being and becoming. Your rest tonight is part of the universe's great breathing, the rhythm of activity and stillness that sustains all life. So rest. Let yourself be breathed. Let yourself be part of something larger than any individual story or self. There is an old saying in Zen: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. On the surface, nothing changes. The same activities, the same daily tasks, the same ordinary life continues on. But beneath the surface, everything has changed. The one who chops and carries is no longer the same. They are no longer burdened by resistance to what is. They are no longer waiting for something better. They chop wood completely. They carry water completely. Each action is the whole of enlightenment in that moment. This is the secret the masters have pointed toward for thousands of years across all traditions. The extraordinary is hidden in the ordinary. The sacred is concealed within the mundane daily activities of life. You do not need to go anywhere or do anything special to find what you are seeking. You only need to be fully present to what is already here, right now, in this moment. The breath is sacred. The heartbeat is sacred. The darkness is sacred. The rest is sacred. Everything is sacred when seen with eyes that have stopped seeking and started simply seeing what is here. Let your eyes rest closed now, seeing without looking, knowing without thinking, being without becoming anything else. The night is deep. The world is quiet. The body knows what the mind keeps forgetting. Rest is not something you have to earn. Peace is not something you have to deserve or achieve. They are your birthright, given freely, available always, waiting only for you to stop struggling against them. So stop now. Stop everything. Let the river carry you. Let the darkness hold you completely. There is nothing more to do. There is nothing more to understand. There is only this rest. In the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, there is a practice called Tonglen, or sending and receiving compassion. In this practice, you breathe in the suffering of others and breathe out your own peace and well-being. It sounds counterintuitive. Why would you take on suffering? Why not simply breathe out the good and keep it? But the practice reveals something profound about the nature of compassion and the illusion of separation. When you breathe in suffering with an open heart, you discover that it does not harm you at all. The heart is larger than any suffering. The heart can hold everything without being diminished or overwhelmed. And when you breathe out peace, you discover that it does not deplete you in any way. Peace is not a limited resource. Giving it away only increases it, like a flame lighting other flames. There was a master who taught this practice who was once asked by a skeptical student about it. If I keep breathing in suffering, the student said, won't I eventually become overwhelmed by all of it? Won't I drown in the sorrows of the world? Won't it destroy my own fragile peace? The master smiled and invited the student to sit with him in the garden for a time. They sat in silence, watching the trees sway gently in the afternoon breeze that day. After some time, the master pointed to a large old tree at the edge of the garden. "That tree," he said, "has been breathing in the air we exhale for hundreds of years now. Our breath contains what we do not need, carbon dioxide, the waste of our body's work. Yet the tree does not complain. The tree does not become sick or overwhelmed by our waste. Instead, it transforms what we give it into what it needs and gives back oxygen in return. This is the nature of genuine compassion. It transforms suffering into peace, just as the tree transforms air. You do not hold on to the suffering you breathe in. You let it pass through your open heart, and in passing through, it is transformed by the alchemy of compassion into something that can heal. The student sat with this teaching for many days, practicing Tonglen with increasing trust and openness. He discovered that his fear of being overwhelmed was itself the only thing that could overwhelm him. When he stopped resisting suffering, when he let it flow through him like air through leaves, something changed. His heart grew larger, his peace grew deeper, his connection to all beings grew more intimate and real. He understood that we are all breathing together, all exchanging, all transforming, all part of one breath. The suffering of others is not separate from your own. Their peace is not separate from yours. We are all interconnected, all interwoven, all participating in the great breathing of the universe together. Let this understanding soften the boundaries of your heart now as you rest in the darkness. Let yourself breathe in whatever suffering touches your awareness, trusting that your heart can hold it all. Let yourself breathe out whatever peace is present, trusting that giving it away only increases its presence. This is not a practice you need to do actively tonight. It is simply an orientation to hold, an orientation of openness rather than protection, of connection rather than separation, of giving rather than hoarding. In this orientation, rest becomes something larger than personal restoration. It becomes participation in healing itself. Your rest heals you, and through the mysterious interconnection of all things, it heals others as well. The world is not fixed. Suffering is not permanent. Peace is possible for all beings everywhere, and your gentle breathing in the darkness tonight is part of that possibility becoming actual reality. At last, peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop resisting the flow of all that is. The breath moves in, the breath moves out, the heart opens and receives, the heart opens and gives. This is the rhythm of compassion, the same rhythm as the tides, the seasons, the turning of the stars. You are part of that rhythm. You have always been part of it. You cannot not be part of it. So let yourself rest in that belonging now. Let yourself be held by the rhythm that holds everything. There is a final story I want to share with you before the silence deepens into sleep. It is a very simple story, perhaps the simplest I have told, yet it contains everything. There was once an old monk who lived at the edge of a village in a tiny hermitage. He had practiced meditation for 60 years, since he was a young man full of questions. Now he was old, his body bent with age, his eyes clouded by cataracts, his hands trembling slightly. Yet people said he was the most peaceful person anyone had ever met in their entire lives. His presence alone was enough to calm troubled minds and soften hardened hearts that came to him. One day, a young woman came to him in great distress about her life and circumstances. She had lost her mother, her job, and her sense of purpose all in the same year. She felt as if her life had been shattered into pieces too small to ever put back together. She wept as she told her story, and the old monk listened with infinite patience and presence. When she was finished, she looked at him with desperate eyes, hoping for some wisdom to help. "Master," she said, "how do I go on? How do I find peace when everything has fallen apart?" The old monk was silent for a long moment, and in that silence, something began to shift. It was as if the silence itself was the answer, or at least the beginning of an answer. Then he spoke, his voice soft and rough with age, but carrying a warmth that enveloped her. "Everything falls apart," he said gently. "This is not a problem. This is how things are. The flower falls apart when it blooms fully. The fruit falls apart when it becomes seed again. Your life has not been ruined. It has been opened, like a seed breaking its shell to grow." The woman listened, wanting to argue, but finding that something in his words rang true. "I know it hurts," he continued. "The breaking always hurts, but the hurt is not the whole story. Beneath the hurt, there is space now, space that was not there when everything was intact. And in that space, something new can grow, something that could not grow before the breaking came. You do not have to know what that something is. You do not have to plan or force it. You only have to stay present to the space, to tend it gently, to trust that life knows how to grow." The woman was quiet for a long time, feeling the truth of his words settle into her body. She had come seeking a way to put the pieces back together, to return to how things were. But the old monk was pointing to something different, not restoration but transformation, not going back but going through. "Will the pain ever stop?" she asked finally, her voice small in the quiet of his hermitage. The old monk smiled gently and reached out to touch her hand with his trembling fingers. "The pain is not your enemy," he said. "It is the sensation of your heart being stretched larger. A heart that has never known loss is a small heart. A heart that has grieved becomes vast. And in that vastness, there is room for everything, the joy and the sorrow, the loss and the love. The pain will soften, as all things soften with time, but the vastness it creates will remain, and you will find one day that you are grateful for that vastness, even grateful for the pain that made it." The woman stayed with the old monk for 3 days, sitting in silence, learning to be present to space. When she left, she had not solved her problems. Her mother was still gone, her job still lost. But something had changed in how she held these facts. They no longer felt like the end of everything. They felt like an opening into something she could not yet see, but could begin to trust. Years later, she would say that those 3 days of silence saved her life and set her free. Not because the monk gave her answers, but because he showed her how to hold questions gently. Let that story rest in you now, like a seed resting in the dark soil of winter. You do not need to understand it. You do not need to apply it or learn from it. Simply let it be here with you in the darkness, a companion for your rest this night. Whatever has broken in your life, whatever has fallen apart or failed to meet your expectations tonight, let it be here. Let the space that loss has created be here. Let the vastness that grief has made be present. You do not have to fill it. You do not have to fix it. You only have to let it be. And in the letting be, something begins to grow, something that could not exist before the breaking. This is the mystery of life, that loss leads to gain, that death leads to rebirth, that endings lead to beginnings. It is happening now in the darkness as you rest. New growth is stirring in you even as you sleep. Trust it. You do not have to see it or understand it. Just trust that life knows how to grow. Peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop fighting against the flow of life. The night has grown very still now. The deepest hour approaches when even the stars seem to hold their breath. This is the hour of complete surrender, when the body releases its last holding and falls into rest. Let yourself fall now. Let yourself be held by the darkness that has been holding you all along. There is nothing more to do. There is nothing more to think. There is nothing more to be. Only rest, only breath, only the vast stillness that contains all things and is disturbed by nothing. The thoughts may still arise, like bubbles, rising in deep water toward a surface far away. Let them rise. Let them pop into nothing when they reach the air. They are not your concern. Your concern is only this breath, only this moment, only this gentle, endless falling into peace. The candle has gone out now, somewhere in the temple of your imagination, leaving only darkness. But the darkness is not empty. It is full of presence, full of warmth, full of rest. You are that darkness. You are that presence. You are the warmth in which all things rest. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the simple truth of what you are. Before you were anything else, you were awareness. After everything else passes, awareness remains, unchanged and unchangeable. That awareness is not personal. It does not belong to you any more than the sky belongs to a bird. You belong to it. You arise within it. You will return to it, as all things return. But even now, even in the midst of arising, you are never separate from it, not even for a moment. The wave is never separate from the ocean, even when it seems to rise up as an individual form. The flame is never separate from fire, even when it flickers in a particular candle on a particular night. You are never separate from the awareness that holds all things, even when you seem to be a particular person. Let this knowing relax every cell of your body. Let it soften every thought that still wants to grasp. You are held. You have always been held. You will always be held. There is no falling. There is only the endless embrace of what is, holding everything gently, releasing nothing ever into nothingness. Rest in that embrace now. Rest as you have never rested before, completely, utterly, without any reservation. The breath moves on its own now. You do not have to breathe. Breathing happens without you. The heart beats on its own. You do not have to beat it. Life lives without your effort. Everything continues without you needing to do a thing. Everything is taken care of while you rest. So rest. Let go completely. Let the universe hold you as it has always held you. The dawn will come in its own time. Morning will arrive with its light and its invitation. But that is far away now. That is tomorrow's gift. Tonight there is only this darkness and rest. In the vast silence that holds all sound, in the deep stillness that cradles all movement, you are home. You have always been home. You never left. The journey was only a dream of going somewhere else, and now the dream is ending, dissolving like mist in the morning sun that will not come for hours. Let it dissolve. Let everything dissolve. Let even these words fade into the silence from which they came. There is nothing left to say. There has never been anything to say. The silence says it all, and as the last echo of thought fades into the vast quiet of the night, And as the breath continues its ancient rhythm without any effort or intention from you, and as the body sinks deeper into the softness that receives it without condition or demand, all is well. All has always been well. All will always be well. The night is here. The breath moves on its own, and all is well. Rest now. Rest completely. Rest as if you have never rested before. Let the stillness embrace you. Let the darkness hold you. Let peace be what it has always been. You are safe. You are held. You are loved by the universe that made you. Sleep now. Sleep well. Sleep deep. And know that in the morning the light will find you. But for now there is only this darkness, only this breath, only this endless gentle peace. The stars turn slowly overhead, though you cannot see them through your closed and resting eyes. The earth spins gently through space, carrying you along on its ancient journey around the sun. Everything continues, everything flows, everything is exactly as it should be in this moment and all moments. And you are part of that everything, resting in its arms, trusting its endless wisdom completely. Sleep now. Let go now. Surrender now. There is nothing else to do. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. And between the breaths, there is only silence. That silence is your home. That silence is who you are. That silence holds everything. Rest in it now. Rest in the silence. Rest in the peace that passes all understanding. And if a thought arises, let it pass like a cloud. And if a feeling arises, let it pass like weather. You are the sky. You are the silence. You are the peace itself, dreaming this dream of a person. And the dream is good. And the rest is deep. And the night holds you safely. Nothing more needs to happen. Nothing more needs to be understood. Nothing more needs to be done. Only rest. Only peace. Only the soft darkness cradling you like a child in arms of love. The monks in their temples have gone to sleep. The candles have all burned down to nothing. The rain has stopped, or perhaps it continues, but either way the earth is nourished and grateful, and you are like the earth, receiving the gift of rest, preparing for the new growth of tomorrow. But tomorrow is not your concern tonight. Tonight is only for letting go and receiving peace. So let go, receive, rest, trust, be held, be still, be at peace. The words are fading now, like the last light of a candle that has burned its whole length. Soon there will be only silence. Soon there will be only rest. Soon there will be only peace. And in that silence, in that rest, in that peace, you will find what you have always been seeking. Not because you will find it, but because you will stop seeking and realize it was never lost. It is here now. It has always been here. It will always be here, waiting. The peace that passes understanding, the stillness at the heart of all movement, the love that holds all being. Rest in it completely. Let it hold you as you slip into the deepest sleep. There is nothing more to say. The words have done their work and now return to silence, and the silence welcomes them back, as it welcomes everything back, as it welcomes you now. Home. You are home. You have always been home. Rest now in the home you never left. The night continues. The stars continue. The breath continues. And all is well. All is well. Sleep now. Peace now. Rest now. Silence now. Home now. Love now. All is well. And the candle burns low. And the world continues quietly, without you needing to do a thing.